I show up home from work that evening, and I park my truck in the driveway. My son come out to the house, and he's like, something happened to Natalia at the school. She fell, she hit her head, she's crying. I drove over there. When I got there, my daughter is crying, loud, a lot of pain. She couldn't move her legs, neither one. She keeps saying over and over, I can't feel my legs. And I keep asking to her, what happened? She looked at me like she was like lost. She's like, I don't know what happened.
We learned Nicole Poole was 42 years old. She lived in the Des Moines metro area.
In the still photo, she was at the front door knocking on the door, but we didn't have any video after that.
According to talking to her ex-husband, she was there to see her daughter.
The time of her being in the area was right. We had to find this Nikki Poole, and we needed to get her in for an interview.
It looked like there was a shoe print mark on the passenger side door.
And the dirt that was on the car, it looked like impressions from clothing, like that pattern had been impressed into the side of the car. That really started to bring Nicole into the picture as the suspect.
Our investigators heard from the Des Moines Police Department that they were investigating a case where a car had gone up onto the sidewalk and a child had been hit by a car.
That was heartbreaking.
I was just in a state of shock. I didn't know whether to cry or to scream or to just like run away. I knew there was racism in the world, but I never knew that it would happen to me, like 2 blocks away from my house.
We can't live in fear, and we can't let that destroy my family.
That was the last known sighting we had of her. The issue started several days before. He didn't want any plumbers called. He tried snaking the drain himself. He was taking efforts to fix it. By the 29th, it was getting so bad. The smell, the pipes were backing up into the people's bathtubs. People upstairs just took it upon themselves to call a plumber. The officers on the scene decided to knock on the door of Adam Strong's basement apartment. They recall him putting his head down and making a comment almost instantaneously that the jig's up. Rory had a distinct tattoo. She had the word alive tattooed on her neck. And when they looked through the freezer displayed, I knew right then, yeah, it's Rory. Let's just shut it down now. We could have sat there for another 3 or 6 hours. I don't think we were going to get any different results. To a logical person, it doesn't make sense. You keep all that evidence around, but it seemed to be the way Adam thought. The DNA that was located on that knife, it wasn't through blood. It was tissue-like material. We sent that knife off for analysis.
And very much like Rory, she was out of the house on her own. Both victims were in their late teens, and both victims were of more of a petite build, longer, brown hair.
Almost a splitting image of each other. She went missing 10 years prior, and Adam went undetected for 10 years. It makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Certainly checked into how he had been treated thus far. That's important. Speaks towards admissibility. Addressed any needs that he had, and he said he hadn't eaten, so we took care of that. I certainly knew we couldn't rush into talking to Adam about the case, given the fact how it went with the two detectives back in December of 2017. Sharing a meal with somebody, breaking bread with somebody, it's a chance to bond and talk.
All importantly, doesn't react to what most people would perhaps react to, which is, again, a rather shocking thing to say.
Every time there was a little bit of information given to me, maybe even unknowingly by Adam Strong, inside I was giving myself a little fist pump, only because I thought we were advancing the case a little bit here.
He thinks, and they are, only talking about dismemberment and disposal, but in fact it's allowing, in this case, the judge ultimately to make inferences about what must have happened during the actual murders that took place.
Adam was convicted of first-degree murder on Rory and ultimately convicted of manslaughter on the second victim. I have never met an individual like him. It was a tough investigation, but we speak for the victims. We're trying to bring them justice and give the family answers. The sentence he was given is the maximum sentence you can receive in this country. So yes, I feel justice was served.
I need an emergency right now. The shooting at the corner store next to Stevie.
Okay, do you know if anyone's been hit?
The victim was eventually identified by his identification being found in his wallet as Joseph Edward Ross. He was eventually transported to the hospital where he passed.
Our crime scene comms, takes photographs, really documents what's going on. Because there is a lot of activity, crowds start developing. So we start going up to those crowds. Hey, did you see what happened? Did you hear what happened?
Jonathan Ross said Nicholas Nairn was 23 years old, a small-time drug dealer who was out of work. All the links with the red Dodge pickup truck, the history between the two of them, the subject being armed on a regular basis, it obviously then at that point propelled Nicholas Nairn to being the suspect that we were looking for.
Before we entered the room to interview Nick, he was sleeping.
This referred to as the perp nap. Someone who's typically guilty will actually fall asleep in the interrogation room because they're so exhausted from the stress associated with waiting to be arrested.
We were speechless. He just didn't care. It was pure evil. From the very beginning of this investigation, it was a whodunit. And within hours, we had the suspect in custody, we had a confession, we had him charged, and he was on his way to jail.
He'll die in prison, and that's probably best because I do believe that he would kill again if he had the chance.